Stated children are suspicious behavior, inactivity, or return to services, and any other crimes and safety environment.
Right, but no, we have all the skills to enter book club, which is what we're doing right now.
Right.
We're talking about the Nyctalops Trilogy.
Exactly.
Right, do you want to just jump right in?
Yeah. I guess it would maybe serve us to introduce the idea. Is to say I read half the Wikipedia page, so.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So I liked what I was reading about him. I guess just like first impressions. Yeah. I didn't realize he was like so alive. Like, I didn't realize he was living currently. I always just assume anything I'm reading is like from a while ago, and that's just obviously an ignorant way to behave. But go ahead.
No, it's very morbid stuff too on the stories and his whole vibe. Like,
right.
He has a book called "The Conspiracy Against the Human Race" that like a lot of people like cite as like suicide fuel or something.
I was actually reading about some of his antinatalism, which again is pretty dank. I not to be like a dick, but I like I'm with the antinatalist kind of like perspective, just out of curiosity and out of like also I'm pretty pessimistic broadly, but so I thought that was kind of funny.
Yeah.
It was interesting to see that just like on a Wikipedia page for like an author who wrote short stories, like, but.
Right. So on that, okay, this is good. Let's just, on that, let's introduce like who we're talking about. This is Thomas Ligotti.
Right.
Do you want to go ahead and like share like what you read on the Wikipedia?
Okay, so Ligotti has suffered from chronic anxiety and anhedonia. It's crazy having the word anhedonia on your Wikipedia page for much of his life. These have been prominent themes in his work. Ligotti avoids the explicit violence common in some recent horror fiction, preferring to establish disquieting, pessimistic atmosphere through the use of subtlety and repetition. So that was like sort of like a good bit I saw. I was reading about his antinatalist views, and I thought that was like really like, that was like what? I don't know.
If you want to look for it, I'll vamp a little bit. I think it's funny that it says anhedonia. Just he must have like insisted it say that instead of depression. Like he feels like the type of guy to think that that's hack.
Yeah. I've known. I think I've known that type of person, but
I'm not depressed. I'm just very honest about the way the world is.
Right. It's
got
like
nothing to do with my internal chemistry.
Yeah, there's also like that's how I feel a little bit about ennui. As much as I love saying that word, like ennui, when people are like suffering from ennui, it's like, oh yeah, it's just
ennui.
Existing must be
unless
so
you're French,
right?
I'll use ennui to describe other people, maybe, but never myself. I'd rather just say depression.
It's really pretentious to say ennui. Like it's really a masturbatory way to say you're depressed. I think. It's a beautiful word, I guess.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Here's his antinatalist.
Which is, okay, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I don't want to cut you off. I feel like we were. I'll just keep it tabbed.
I was gonna say I think it goes to show like his good taste too, that he's not saying ennui. Like anhedonia is much more clinical. Like it's simply the way I feel.
Yeah, that's that's 100% true. I bet he could write about somebody experiencing ennui, but I don't think I think anhedonia would maybe even be too clinical for him, at least based on some of his other writing here. But yeah, okay. So here I'm seeing I guess the 2014 HBO series True Detective, which Big Nick has tried to make me watch like 15 times. Resembled his pessimistic antinatalist worldview. I swear there was more that I read about this than just that, because like where would they just pull that out of? You know what I mean? Like, but oh, okay.
Yeah, I've heard that there was a lot of Ligotti worship on the first season.
Yeah. Okay. It says here that episodes by the philosophy espoused in the first few episodes by a character, I guess, Rust Cole. I've never seen this.
That's the McConaughey guy.
Right. Sort of reflect his, like, I guess, written examples of philosophical pessimism and antinatalism. Oh, yeah, is the conspiracy against the human race. Which that would probably be a trip to read. Maybe we'll tab that one, put that one on the Google Doc. That would be, it's probably terrible, but intense.
Yeah, I've thought about reading it, but it seems like just like a long form essay, or I guess it's a book length, like argument.
Seems like it might give me jaw tension. Though I guess we listened to Homotopy for Marie, so that only took an hour.
Experience.
Yeah, and that only took
that's
like
an
2
experience,
hours.
And it's not just like with a nonfiction thing, especially one like a deeply pessimistic nonfiction thing. It could have like very beautiful things. Let's put it on the document. I'm just feeling like the stuff I don't agree with would just like make me like kind of annoyed, and the stuff I do agree with would have me be bummed out. So like, what's the like? I'm not optimistic enough for it to be novel.
Right. This isn't going to be like an outright doomer podcast. We'll just flirt with it.
Right off the gate.
Yeah.
I mean, we're up to a good start. Like, when talking about Ligotti, instead of saying he was born in Detroit in 1957 or whatever, we go straight into it. He doesn't, like, because the details of his birth are not as important as how he feels about people being born in general.
Oh, yeah.
Which is they shouldn't.
Right, which is a wholly more interesting fact about a person than, like, Detroit. No, I don't know if...
Yeah, but he's, like, a cool...
Yeah? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, I can't even remember what I was... You go ahead.
Oh, okay. I can barely remember either. But yeah, he's an interesting figure. Like, he goes, like... Yeah, like you were saying, like he thought he might have been, like, he might as well have been dead for, like, the vibe he carries.
Yeah. Right.
Like, he's got a weird place where, like, I'll see, like, Ligotti referenced a lot. You know, obviously, like, True Detective guy likes to read him, right? He has that relationship with a guy from Current 93. Yeah, I guess what I was trying to get at before is that, like, I see reference to him in that how people like he's the horror fans horror writer, or the horror writer's horror writer. Like people talk about him in terms of like the debt they owe him, like artistically. Like he's already left his mark.
Right. Yeah. I like that. That's sort of like like, oh, how would you describe it? Like, hidden gem, like the way people talk about like a lot of like obscure musical artists that have like fast reaching influence way beyond their like initial popularity,
right? And if you're in certain circles, it's like
right,
I don't know, like
gospel or something.
Yeah, so it's like if you're in a certain room, like everyone there has listened to Neutral Milk Hotel.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Right, but mathematically, most people haven't.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. I've been in, I think, both rooms. I'm isolated enough that I have no sense of like what is popular. Like I bought this book at Barnes and Noble, so I figure it's somewhat known. I would say most things associated with Current 93 are probably moderately obscure. But I guess I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, like there's like a layer of like never heard of them. There's another layer of I've been meaning to get into that stuff, and then there's like the super fans.
Right.
I'm probably in the middle strata still.
Yeah, I know one person who cares very passionately about that whole like scene, but I it's more peripheral. All my exposure to all of that has been through, but and of course, then reading this now. But
Yeah,
I
that's
enjoyed
oh yeah, no, like tremendously. Like I want to definitely keep reading some of these stories.
Yeah, I would like to touch on a few more. So I think that I think that like like if we wanted to like start digging into the meat of what we've read, like I I found the second one like the most like complete feeling, uh like the part two of the trilogy, the labyrinthine eyes, which wait, hold on, let me pull up the actual name of it
Oh
because
no, I wrote it down. The
oh,
drink
okay,
to
good,
me with drink to me only with labyrinthine eyes.
right, literal current 93 lyrics. I can just hear David Tibet saying that. I can just imagine it. Like it took me like I just blinked and there it was.
Yeah, like the titles get more and more like obscure.
Right.
All right, so like okay, yeah, so let's introduce it. We're reading the work of Thomas Ligotti on this here book club,
Right.
and we're reading from his book, The Songs of Dead Dreamer. Usually that's packaged with another book called Grimscribe in a Penguin publication. Reading a story called the Nyctalops Trilogy. And that's 3 parts. That's the chemist, spelled in a funny way. It's not the chemist, it's the chemist. The chimist. Drink to me only with labyrinthine eyes and Eye of the Lynx. Yeah, I think that the second one is probably like beginning to end my favorite. But I might have enjoyed more of the. I might have enjoyed the first one the most.
Oh, really? See, I was going to say, I don't know that the second one is actually my favorite. I just think it felt the most complete.
Yeah.
Like, the first one felt... I don't know that I liked it. I'll admit. Well, okay, like, what... maybe, like... So I went back and reread the end of it, because the first time I read it, I was, like, falling asleep, and it was obviously pretty fucking trippy, And that's why I like, I wasn't sure if I remembered it correctly, and then I went back and read it, and I was like, that's pretty close. I like what is it that is you interpret to be sort of occurring like physically, like he sort of drugs her into this state where she is within his dreams, or rather like a product of them. Like is that am I like understanding that literally? Like is that what's happening? Like
yeah, like I guess there's room for like there's I immediately read it as like a supernatural thing.
Oh yeah, of course.
Like something about the drug linked them so that whatever he like thought, whatever he manifested, whatever he dreamed, to use his own language, like became like what her body was.
Mm-hmm.
But I guess there's room for it to be just like a weird kind of hallucinogenic thing.
Yeah. Right. Well, it reminded me actually like a little bit, again, I guess assuming it was the first thing, it reminded me like a little bit of like Crowley's sort of treatment of like reality in his short stories. You know what I mean? Where it's like very like supernaturally malleable in a way that's like really like novel like that. You know what I mean? Like, cause that's a very odd, like,
yeah, there is the other story that we read, the story we read from Crowley was the Testament of Magdalene Brown. Did I get that title right?
I think it's Magdalene Blair.
Magdalene
I'll
Blair.
look it up real quick just to confirm.
I think you're right.
It is, yeah.
Oh, Blair. Ha. Right, but in the Magdalene Blair story, it's about like a woman like what has like a like supernatural like perceptive abilities, like she can perceive things about the world like very clearly, and then it translates into perceptions about like the state of her husband as he's dying,
right?
And like she sees like his like his soul being tortured. But they spend so much time on the scientific analysis of like the limits of her perception and like the possibility of intuition.
Right.
That it's like it makes you wonder like how much is it just like her own like just like the only way like the brain can like fathom what it's like to die slowly versus the like being granted access to what it looks like to be in hell.
Yeah.
Like literal hell.
Right.
And
do you feel
like that thing about like the way you see the world and how the world is just being like this, like having a porous border.
Yeah. Well, that's a very, I think that's like a very classic, like sort of like a cult sort of, concept, and it kind of makes sense to me that anybody like, I mean, like, I think David Tibet was pretty clearly like heavily influenced by like, like a many strains of like cultural, folklore and that, including like, like Western esotericism and the things that would have produced like Crowley, of course. And I would assume that Ligotti read some of the same stuff, honestly. Like I really would, just based on the way that he writes. But
I have to like even just to do research for how the character speaks. Like he speaks like a 18th century, like a 19th century dandy.
Yeah.
Especially the chemist. Do you want to do like a small synopsis for each story?
Yeah. How do we want to do it? Should like we take turns, or what's the like one?
Yeah, okay. I guess I started it. I can do like a little synopsis for the chemist right now, and then when we hit the next one, we can do that.
Yeah.
So yeah, like there's short stories, like it's mostly like creating moods. So the chemist is a story. I feel weird saying the chemist. I'm trying to like be true to the way it's spelled.
I hate it because it reminds me of a word for something that I wish I didn't know. And it's not like anything relating to like chemistry. It's actually like relating to poop. There's like all right. I'll just come out with it. Like there's this word for like food that's in your like intestines that hasn't like fully become poop yet, and it's literally just chyme, like CHYME, and I hate that word. I hate it so much, and like the more we like focus on the Y in chemist, the more it makes me think of that. But that's my only comment there.
Maybe it's on purpose a little bit. I'll circle back around to that.
I was gonna say I was trying to like figure that one out for like a second, and I like couldn't find a link. But if you did find one, I would love to hear it. So let's. Anyway, let's continue the synopsis.
So the titular chemist introduced himself as a normal chemist with an E. He's picking up a sex worker at a bar, like at a seedy part of town, and he's boring her with the most like condescending like theories about beauty and in dark places. Like he has a sense of like the majesty of like of decay and like the beauty of like the hidden order of chaos in the city.
Yeah, like him and everybody else, like it's like right. That's all I'm saying. Like that's it's weird. It's a weird thing that he's so pretentious, the narrator. But anyway,
but everyone loves the city.
Right. Yeah, I get not like everybody, you know what I mean. But I guess it's like a common sentiment.
Maybe that sentiment's like a Neutral Milk Hotel thing.
Oh,
some people just have a
point.
Like we're just around cool people who think they're a little bit cooler than that.
I mean, it explores a little bit of that, I think, in the third story, probably.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
but we'll circle back to that. So the chemist is boring this woman with his with his theories.
Yeah.
He keeps teasing her about like what's in his briefcase, and they go up to her apartment where he gives her a drug that's like a powder, which he describes in a cool way. Like I don't know how much into like the details, but he describes it as like bottled light or powdered light.
It's like the new Coca-Cola.
And when
go ahead.
And he puts on her hand, and before she can even do anything, it like gets absorbed into her skin. And then he goes into like what his whole thing was, that he's saying like, now I'm gonna dream you. And now I'm dreaming you. And he dreams her as someone who can't use her arms and legs. Dreams her as someone without a mouth. Just tells him like how he's gonna like make her body change in these crazy ways. Like he's a, I guess it's revealed he's some kind of serial killer or something. And he's saying like, you won't survive the process. And it ends with him telling her to bloom. He's excited about all the forms that it's going to take.
Bloom is a really compelling line to end on. Yeah, I like that.
Oh, yeah.
It really was. When you reiterate that, like, I'm like, yeah, that was really a crazy ending. But
yeah, just looking at it from his perspective, he's got this like ideal for. There's like a beauty that he's chasing.
Mm-hmm.
Like the way like someone goes out trying to get the perfect night. But it involves like someone else's bodies. Like he's like really excited about how he can like stretch like the definition of a body or something. Like just like create things that he's never seen before. Like it's a great idea for a villain, just like a pure aesthete whose medium is like other people.
Yeah. It's like he's like sort of like he paints with like flesh almost. But in his dreams, so the dream thing, I'll admit, has me a little bit like. So obviously, I don't want to like ruin this, I guess, but like it should be noted probably that dreams are like a recurring theme, I think, in all three stories to a degree.
Right, dreaming and sleep. Like the second one is like a Dr. Caligari thing, like a somnambulist.
Yeah. Right, and then the last one.
And the third one has
multiple references.
Right, and for all we know, it's the same guy, right? Like it.
I
might
that
not
was my
be,
original theory. That was my original theory, but I don't think it is. That's what I ran with for the first two stories, and then I read the third, and I wasn't so sure. But. But yeah.
He didn't seem as condescending in the next two stories. Maybe in the third one, but they all seem to have like a different kind of.
The most unsettling for me. The third one was really unsettling.
Oh, that one was the one that's like the most. Like the first one's like more in the moment. You only hear what he says.
And
then the third one's like fully like in his perspective.
Yeah.
So the first one, you're like, it like kind of like pulls you in. You're wondering like, what is this guy about? Doesn't seem great, but he could just be a weirdo.
Right.
There's a lot of things that like make him be a villain anyways. Like make him be like hateable or like the condescension.
Right.
Besides just being like a thing to add flavor, also immediately makes him unlikable, right?
Oh yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, it's such a known flavor for me. Like, this person I can imagine, even like on the surface level, like, it's crazy to me that like on the inside is also somebody like insanely despicable to this like degree. Your typical like insufferable person isn't like hiding like a dream sculpting wizard, but
dream sculpting.
Like, you're right, exactly. So. But it's he's just immediately hateable, like another gentleman who like our beloved Mr. Lockwood or whatever.
Yeah.
Just immediately.
Yeah,
hateable.
But he's like, Oh, that one's like bumbling, like he's condescending just because I don't know, he's just so full of himself. But this guy, like the other scary thing about it is that he has like access to a certain knowledge. Like he's like I think he says like he got his BS at 12, like he went to college at 12. Like he's some kind of super genius.
I gotta find that again. Like, I didn't remember that.
Is another great scene that shows him off as a as a villain is the when he manipulates that cop into letting them go through.
Right.
Like he like gives him something about like gives him some like stocks advice.
Yeah, and
And
it sounds like
then
it was just
he
all
says,
bullshit.
Yeah, that's what he says. I assume by BS you mean the degree I got when I was 12.
Right.
Otherwise, I wouldn't have that language.
Oh, right, yeah, I see this here. Oh my gosh. I at so many points she could have like probably backed out of this date. Like I would not have gotten this far into with this guy.
Right. I mean, who knows? Like, it's like the way that he paints the city, obviously through this guy's perspective. It seems like the kind of thing that's like, oh, she must have seen all kinds of weirdos. Probably thinks he's just another weird guy.
Right,
And, like,
right.
What does he do, like, to, like, what he does to, like, keep her interested? Like, he makes he keeps, like, hinting at the briefcase having something very valuable.
Right.
So it's, like, just a jump to her, and also, like, where is this going? Like, if she, like, you know, it'd be better if she did pull out, but also, like, I'd want to know, too.
Yeah,
where he's going with his.
That's true.
I have no survival. I
guess just that if some dude was talking to me like this, it would just be so many fucking red flags. That's what I would say about that. I don't know. Like this is like so many red flags.
The way.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I want to say though the way he like manipulates the cop, like so easily manipulates someone is huge.
Yeah. That's definitely true too. Oh. Well, and I mean, I don't know, like to be able to spin a cop is like, I don't know, man. I guess if that's like a sign of insidiousness, then I'm pretty insidious because I have definitely spun some cops. But
oh, nice.
Well, you know, they're just I don't know.
But there's a way.
Yeah. You just it's not to like give them fake stock advice. That's actually kind of. Maybe unrealistic. Not to like. Obviously, he's a good writer. I'm not like, but like phony stock advice. I don't know what kind of cop. But what I try to do is like, and this works, of course, a little better, or it would have in the past because I was like a white male. You know, is to just literally just talk to them like people. Do you know what I mean? Like literally, not like that they have any authority at all. No, like literally, like there's somebody who just like eats donuts and like watches like shitty television, and like because I don't respect them. Like why would I talk to them like anything else, right? And because of that, like in a weird, stupid way, they actually kind of want that. You know what I mean? Because that makes them think that you're not a threat to them. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, this is just a person, just like me. Yeah, you know. And again, this is like. Right, and this is coming from a place of privilege, at least more so at that point. I'm not as cis as I used to be, at least in terms of how I look or whatever, you know, especially in terms of how I feel. But, but back then I was like just a dude to them, so they'd...
But I'll say, like, your way of, like spinning a cop, like, it's not quite manipulation... Because I'm sure the cop like knows just as well.
Well, I sit there and I look for opportunities to take advantage of, though. Like anything that they say that gives me an in, I like jump on. You know what I mean? And I try to do that in a way that looks natural and seems conversational and like just well-meaning, you know? And then from there, I just, I just manipulate them out of, I mean, it is manipulation. I hate to say it. I mean, it's like, it's super intentional and it's like motivated for that purpose. Like,
yeah, but I guess the difference in how he does it,
I
guess it's just flavor. Like you do it like, establishing like a point of like similarity or like, we're both equals in this crazy world and he doesn't like give up status ever. Like I'm the one who has the inside knowledge for you.
Yeah, it's very American Psycho at that moment. Just like big boss man pulls all the strings, and that makes me a better psychopath or something on it.
Right. Yeah, there is there's a vampire level of like mesmerism, right?
Yeah,
that like wealth can like carry with it.
that's true. That's true.
Yeah, I don't think like I don't think Ligotti's like trying to say anything about society, but he's like picking out like these things that like make for like more compelling villains. Just like picking out like these cool things that make it
Right.
like these interesting flavors. Yeah, but there's flirting with wealth too in the next photo in the next story too.
That's true. Now that you pointed out, from minute one, he compares his eyes to gemstones. That's to say nothing, of course, of like the literal elaborate party. But it's interesting that he does that and then never follows up with like the magic that his eyes specifically seem to convey. It's like only relevant for a couple minutes, though it introduces him as like a really intimidating hypnotist. I assume we're just like sort of working our way into the second one now. I guess I can summarize it.
Oh, wait. If we before we lose the thread, I want to say like a couple things on the chemist.
Yep.
Like one thing, I guess like in the chemist, like it is like a literal. Like, we can then like go back and compare them too.
Oh, of course.
But I want to say something about the it's like the manipulation, like changing, like manipulating people and like contorting their bodies. Like there's a rhyme there that's pretty interesting. And throughout the story too, like the way he condescends is he's almost also trying to like teach her something. Like he wants her to see the world the way that he does.
Yeah, which is what makes him so insufferable to me, especially. Like maybe it's just like it's something I perceive about the mansplaining or something. I just and like I don't know. I mean, like if I'm interested in something, I'll let a dude talk to me about it forever. That said, though, like I don't want anybody to sit there and like ha ha ha, I'm a lady. Like come over to my cringe ass worldview. Like I don't know. That's not like super nuanced analysis, but but yeah.
Sometimes like it's like not even like trying to like inspire the feeling in her, but trick her into thinking that she always had it. Like exactly, right. You could say it like this pit, but it's decrepitude, which has your pit in it.
Right. That's funny.
Oh. Yeah, like he's like so. I know there's more stuff to dig in. I want to say more like my thing for maybe like the Kime, the whatever, like the middle poop.
Yeah.
Thing. Like he talks about like the true chemistry. Like he talks about the great chemists and the true chemistry of the world not being like what the alchemists thought of things going to a higher realm of leaded to gold. And things striving for high nature, but like the great chemistry of decay, of like making things be, like breaking down and becoming new through their disintegration.
Yeah.
Food becomes poop.
That's true. I could riff on that actually. I didn't connect this until you sort of said it, but like, are you familiar with like the Agori? I think that's I think they come up in Twin Peaks, but that's like a group of like Indian, like, spiritual Hindus of some sort that like really like are like just deeply focused on like death. You know what I mean? They sort of like coat themselves in ash. You know what I mean? And the reason is like they each Agori carries with them like a skull. You know what I mean? Like a human skull. I'm pulling up pictures right now. I would send them to you in the Google, but I feel like you could just Google them too. It's Aghori.
Okay, let me look at it.
They like hang out in. Are you familiar with that or?
Never. I've seen Twin Peaks, but I guess I didn't.
Yeah, it's real.
It didn't like register something in a Google.
Yeah, so they have like they're very realistically like obsessed with death as like a spiritual part of life. The only thing I had to say is that I just heard about them from a Muslim Gauze album. That's all. There's a Muslim Gauze album that like uses samples from a documentary about them. That's what got me reading initially. Yeah, that's all.
There could be like even a bit in the story that we might have missed somewhere where like where he says like agoric fantasies or something. Like there seem to be a lot of like illusions thrown around.
Yeah, there were, and unfortunately, when I initially read it, I like I said, I was a little like half awake, and if I had like probably like more time to devote to that, like I know enough about like probably like some of the alchemy he's referencing to like probably have more to say on it. I really should have reread the whole story, to be honest, but time was a factor. All right, so do we want to like sort of like lead back into?
Yeah, we got some ground to cover.
Yeah, so we've like got this lovely hypnotist at a sort of posh party. Seems to be like like an elegant affair. There's quite a few people there. And the first thing we find out about him is that his eyes resemble like sort of gemstones in a way that seems to be like a little bit more than just your typical like, oh, your eyes are so pretty, they're like gemstones kind of a way. Like it's almost a little freakish, We also quickly find out that he has this dainty sort of assistant, which sort of fits, with maybe that sort of stereotype of like the magician and the assistant. I'm not sure what era this takes place in, but anything with hypnotists and dinner parties just seems very like vaudevillian to me. But but like I don't know. It's not really clear. I guess they have an electric doorbell, but that comes up later. So
like definitely post like 20th century, because like 1890s it would have been a seance at that time. Right?
That's so true. That's so true. That's so true. Anyway,
they loved that stuff.
They did. Honestly, it seems like a good time. Maybe a future podcast. So essentially, he performs his act for this group of people. And he seems to do a pretty good job. The main act appears to be, not so much his hypnotism of the crowd, at least initially, but instead his manipulation of his somnambulist, which, as I think you mentioned earlier, sort of calls back some of that Cabinet of Dr. Caligari kind of vibes. Like, even just see that word again just gave me flashbacks to that movie. But... yeah, because somnambulist, that's like, even you just don't hear that word contemporarily. It's not like a word people use. What's sort of striking is about his manipulation of this assistant / somnambulist is sort of the way he talks about it, in my opinion. Like, he's very creepy, just like the guy in the first story, or maybe the same person. He's very creepy. Like he seems to very much get off on the manipulation of her. And also the crowd to a degree, though it's not at any point implied that he has very much control over them. Actually, at one point in his show, he sort of focuses their attention on, her, this somnambulist, and sort of has her strike a pose, like a star pose, which I think is a reference probably to some occult thing. I'd have to get the books out, but
I bet there's a diagram.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying, because he then commands her to sort of take on like an aspect of like a seraphim, like an angelic aspect, which the crowd doesn't seem to really catch on to. Oh, yeah, no, it's interesting. Like, he was like disappointed. Like, that was like his favorite part of the show, it seemed, and it didn't really take. Right. But I question that. It didn't take. I'm a little like, I don't know, because of what happened later on, obviously. But anyway, So he closes the show out with this sort of very cryptic foreshadowing, where he says, and again, like I guess it doesn't serve me to tell you that it's foreshadowing, but he says, you will awaken at the sound of the chime, which is like a classic, like, hypnotist thing to say, He then proceeds to be very creepy for maybe 30, 40 more minutes as the party sort of resumes its normal pace. Like he's sort of, he's watching his somnambulist like intermingle with the party guests, and it is it's very unsettling the way he sort of describes her as this like sort of flailing, like sleepwalking thing, like this bimbo under his control, almost like this stupefied, like he describes the way that she, dances with people, sort of speaks with various people at the party, interacts with them. And again, he's watching this voyeuristically from a distance. And it's really fascinating the way he's able to describe this. It's super creepy. But he describes the way she like looks, the way she chooses a drink. And then he even goes so far as to sort of like, demean the way that she orders a drink as like an act of thoughtlessness. You know what I mean? Which I was like, oh, she makes. Go ahead.
Yeah, there was like I think I know the scene. Like I guess like one thing I want to throw in is that like most of it like he's addressing it to her.
Right.
Like, oh my sweet, like they don't know what you see, and and it's like. She looks at the bottles as if she's trying to wake up from some kind of dream, but you won't.
Right. And then her choice in drink is based like less on, a rational thought and more on like a vague impression of the bottle and its shape. You know what I mean? Like, which again seems to reduce this apparent woman to like, some like lesser faculty in a way, at least in his eyes. And the way he it's, what this author has done well to me is like really fuse like what I feel like is authentically creepy misogyny into like genuine horror a little bit. And from a feminine perspective, that's super fucking scary. It's super fucking scary a little bit, But anyway.
Yeah, like that one's even scarier than the first one because like the first one is like luring someone in, but there's a person that's totally like in his control in a way that.
Right.
Like it's clear like in those moments where
the third one spooked me the most, but we'll get to that.
Oh, yeah. I guess they get worse and worse.
Yeah. The third one scared the shit out of me, though. But anyway, was that it, or was there? Should I?
No, keep going.
Okay. So,
I'm sure there was, but I'm sure it'll come up in the conversation.
Yeah. Because essentially, like the dancing with this woman begins to get more and more, like people are getting drunk, the party's getting loud, everybody's dancing, and at this point, our narrator here decides that it's time for him to make his escape, if you will. Like he's done with the party, But at no point does he sort of mention bringing this woman with him. It's clear he just sort of wants to dip. And at first I kind of thought like he was just trying to sneak off and get something done, maybe come back, but that's not the case. He leaves and he promptly seemed to just
first. Before he leaves, he talked to the child.
Oh fuck! I forgot about that. Holy shit! How did I forget about that? Okay. Yeah, that was a really important bit. But anyway, so at one point in his wanderings about this house, he encounters this child. I think it's at the top of the stairs, and this child is clearly the parents of the children of the, this is the child of the, the host of the party,
Yeah, no, I was like, that's such a, like, to be a kid looking into, like, what the adults are doing, and they're, like, getting drunk and, like, enjoying things that you just don't understand.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and making passes at women, and it's like, it's beyond your... I remember being that child in a way. Of course, my parents were a lot tamer than any of this kind of shit.
Yeah, to me, it was like uncles, like, listening to Pink Floyd very loud.
That's actually kind of dank. I would have rather had that. So, you know, this hypnotist sort of being up to no good, as is evident at this point, seems to sort of want to feel out this little boy in terms of like what he has seen and how much he knows. And at this point, we don't know anything, so it's not clear what he's really driving at. You know, the questions he asks seems to like one lead you to believe that he is immediately trying to like gain hypnotic or manipulative control over this boy for the sake of his own ends, of course, and two, that he's also just sort of prying for information, but ultimately, you know, he asked the boy what he thinks of the woman below, you know. And the boy responds that the woman looks gross, you know?
Yucky, I think.
Right, as a child would say. And from this, I think our hypnotist is in some way able to surmise that this child has not witnessed his show and is not under the effects of his, you know, whatever hypnotic spell he seems to, it seems to be implied that he has put over everyone. Now, this is where it's kind of like, because to think about that, at no point did anybody seem particularly compelled by his show other than what he did with his somnambulist in the first place. But I guess everything that was important occurred before maybe we started watching is sort of we'll circle back to that.
Yeah, but it turned out that her beauty was part of the trance, was how beautiful she was to everyone.
That's true. Everybody was sort of deeply, you know, enthralled in this.
They want to take turns dancing with her afterwards.
Right. Well, and it should be noted, I think actually in the beginning of the story, the narrator speaks a bit about hypnotism and about his own experiences and why he doesn't really seek to be entranced himself. And it's because he thinks it's too easy for a door to be, like a trap door to be thrown open once you have been lured into that sort of like vulnerable state.
Oh, yeah.
And that is really, well, I'll talk more about this later, but that's actually really true, I think, probably. Anyway. He surmises that this boy is not under his spell, right? And he proceeds to, I believe, if I recall correctly, sort of put the boy under some sort of spell, where he essentially sort of, you know, through either force or more hypnotism, coerces the boy to just go back to bed, close the door, and shut the fuck up until morning, no matter what he sees or hears, you know? So at this point, he does leave. You know what I mean? And on his way out, he seems to like slip around to the front and ring the doorbell. Is that how the timing went? Because it seems like it'd be like damn close. But anyway, with the ringing of the doorbell, the illusion is broken. You know, when the chime rings, you will awaken. The party gets to realize that the somnambulist that they have been falling all over is a corpse. And a pretty gross one, evidently, from the way he described some of the stuff.
Yeah, like sunken eyes. Yeah, she's also gooey. Like it's gonna be on the clothes and stuff.
Right. She's leaking goo, and they've been perceiving her as beautiful this whole time, and that's part of their hypnotic spell. And that's actually really in contrast to like obviously they are, you know, during the show she was already beautiful to them, but during the seraphim spell or whatever, where her beauty was supposed to be sort of symbolically at its peak, nobody really gave a shit. Yeah, which is sort of an interesting, you know, the way her beauty is used throughout this is an interesting thing.
Yeah. And like the thing they were interested in was like him snapping her neck and like stabbing her with swords.
Oh yeah, violence. Yeah, I did forget to mention that. Yeah, they like the sort of classical magician tricks, like the sawing in half. I don't think he did that one literally, but that type of gag. You know?
Oh yeah. The only thing I saw, I thought it was just like show stuff. And I thought that the sword and the snapping was just like tricks. But then when it's like revealed that as a corpse, he's actually snapping her neck. Like that's not illusion. He's actually probably snapping her.
That's wow. Okay. It's damn. Okay. All right. I didn't even like.
Which is like it's so brutal.
Yeah, I didn't even put that together. That's funny.
No, that's definitely something that comes up later because he does the show, throws it away, and it's such a cliche thing
Does he write that in the book?
But
that
it
he
does
does
show
that?
up.
I must have like read right over the fact that was all real, but but it makes sense
I
that
don't
it
think
would
he
be.
says that it's all real.
I like the inference that it is. I didn't even like it. It didn't cross my mind. I'll be honest. But now that you say it, I'm like, oh, that like adds this like entirely new element to how shocking that story is.
Because it's like he's got no like regard for that corpse. It seems he's gonna leave the corpse behind anyways. He gets the corpses by like sneaking into hospitals or graveyards.
Very Yoshikage Kira vibes.
Who's that?
Oh my god! Do you watch JoJo? Have you seen JoJo's Bizarre Adventure?
I have, but I guess I'm like I don't remember that character. Oh, is he the serial killer from season?
Yeah. He has this sort of like half love, half flippancy towards the like hands of his victims that he carries around. If you recall. Like, he both loves them and then is grossed out by them and eventually throws them away in favor of, like, a new victim, you know? Like...
Yeah, that is, like, a very, like, Ligotti villain thing. Like, these guys, like, they have, like, this romance about what's beautiful and at the same time, like, total disdain, like, total... Like, they don't care about the victim at all.
Right. Yeah. That duality of... Yeah. That's exactly... Yeah, I can't... That's a really good comparison. I'm glad that emerged from my ass.
Yeah. It was birthed from your ass. It bloomed.
Yes, right. Yeah.
The chemist is at work again.
The rose of madness blooming from my ass.
Yeah, it's like the details about like there's some like dark imagery, like there's some dark ideas, but like the way it all comes together to just reveal like how fucked up the guy is.
That's an idea for a story. I would have never... That fits no archetype of a horror narrative I've ever heard before. You know what I mean? And for in that reason, I was like, well, this is like a wholly new narrative to me in terms of like this guy tricked everyone into thinking a corpse was a living woman for kicks. Like, that's insane. That is right. That is insane. They should adapt that to a horror movie because I think it would actually be kind of original, you know?
Oh yeah, I wonder if Ligotti's like weird about rights because I guess the closest Ligotti's been to being on screen is him being ripped off for True Detective.
Oh yeah, good point. Was that an homage or was that him being ripped off?
My understanding is that it's very heavy homage, like.
Oh, okay. So it's maybe a little cringe, even.
Yeah, I've heard people who are very into Ligotti be like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, no, it'd be cool. I think like a lot of it could be like cool for adaptation. It'd be tricky because like like these stories, this batch, like they gain a lot from the narration.
It's interesting that, now that you mentioned it, that all three of these stories are just narrated by the villain in that exact same way. You know, even beyond just like the fact that the guy is so similar, the fact that the stories are so similar. I guess that's why he probably clumped them together. But
yeah, they're all like addressed to the victim.
Oh yeah, that too. They are exceptionally. I mean, I will say, as like a collection of things that we've read, they are exceptionally rapey as a trio. But this was like all seemed to be like psychology of a rapist, like every single story, like, which is, I don't think that was a bad thing. I don't mean to like criticize it in that respect. Like, I'm sure that would make it hard to read for a lot of people, but you know, not me, evidently. But but I think that's what makes it so spooky though. I mean, it really gets to me because it's so like, you know, it's so like on the nose for like violent male misogyny, like.
Yeah, and like the third one, I guess is a really good. I don't know if you want to say anything else about this. Like the third one's like when he goes mask off completely.
Yeah, let's cover some brief points and then you can summarize it.
Yeah, the third one, pretty scary. Yeah, it just like starts off like I guess it's also like our first view of what he might be seeing from outside because he references in the news that there are like goth girls disappearing. And he just says, like, people don't understand my work. There's so much more to it than that.
Right.
Yeah, and then we follow him on a night of like doing that, and he's talking about his victim, and he's saying like he's been saving this one, but it's addressed to her. So I've been saving you for last, and it's because he thinks that she has some appreciation for what he's like. That's like the sick. It's like the first one. Going back to the first one, like he thinks like it's like the rapist thought isn't just like I'm gonna make you do these things. It's you want me to do these things to you, even if you don't know it.
Yeah, God, that is what it is. That's why it's so effective too. Like the not like obviously rapist, but like that's why the horror is so effective.
Mm-hmm.
Because
it's like so insidious.
Right.
Yeah, so he's been saving this one victim who works at some kind of like BDSM bordello thing.
Yeah,
like some kind of weird leather club. Yeah, so his victim is working like it seems like she's like reception. Like he goes in and like they describe like he's been eyeing her so much, or like that like the way he describes it, he has a thought like, so what's first or something, and then she asked the question after he had the thought.
Yeah,
and
it was creepy.
To him it's like vindication of how
ready he is to like do what he's about to do.
Mm-hmm. Like I don't know how much is how much he's fooling himself, how much he's like in her head, and like we'll go into that later because he seems to think he knows her better than she does because like she's gonna like guide him around. She asks like, "Are you from here?" He says he's from out of town. It doesn't really give any details. Just not even on the map where he's from.
Right.
And she's gonna like guide him to like where to go, and he says like she's like portraying like a false confidence. She gives some false steps and then moves forward, and she's wondering if he's like new at this, if he's gonna like chicken out because it's some like real hardcore stuff. So they do a tour through the place. He notices like details in the room, like a lot of the stories, like the ambiance of the place that they're going into. Like he notices a stained glass like a window that doesn't go to anything but a drawing of a castle, and he appreciates how spooky it is. And the castle's gonna be part of it later, weirdly enough. And they go through and they see like different scenes of people doing their BDSM fantasies. One like is like a man is like naked and acting like a horse while a woman rides him. Another is a bunch of people in an empty room with a very dim candle, and they're all holding knives but not quite cutting each other.
Yeah, that sounds so fucked up. I just like have a hard time imagining what the kink is there. But anyway, go ahead.
Yeah, like what's the sexual angle? It seems like a vibe. Like all those rooms seem like a vibe.
Yeah, well, I the Hunchback one kind of Again, oh god, I don't want to. Like,
No, I'm glad you said it because I was like blanking out. Like I knew there was a third one like the way he sees them isn't just. The way he sees them isn't just like seeing through the door. It's like he somehow knows what's behind the door without looking.
Because he describes what's on the door in many cases, like the outside of the door.
Oh, how was that?
I the only thing I remembered, because it was obviously really jarring, was that the Hunchback door had a swastika on it, and I was like trying to connect the Hunchback.
Oh yeah.
But I couldn't immediately do that. Yeah.
I wondered like, is it the pre-Nazi swastika? Is it just part of the leather thing?
I mean, I think if it's a BDSM thing, it's probably the swastika, because they did a lot of that. Like, I think a lot of those leather kinksters have like a little bit of like a SS officer kind of like outfit kind of kink too. Do
you want to give it a shot at like why is it? Do you think the swastika is there just for flavor?
The only thing that I can think is that like yes and no. I mean, is it there for flavor? Yeah, like for sure. But is there like anything deeper there? I mean, The only thing I can think is that like the dude in the room is like a hunchback, and his like particular fetish seems to be focused primarily on like begging for satisfaction, you know, which is just like the idea of this like master slave relationship, and then the idea of like you know, like one of them just being like inherently inferior. Like there's that awful line that kind of made me like pucker or something like that, like cringe a little bit. That was like does the hunchback not also deserve his fun? Like this like little begging groveling thing is the fetish, you know? And I guess if you're into that, you know what I mean, you could start to like you could start to see where like fetishizing these authoritarian figures might come from.
Mm-hmm. And the Nazi, like being looked at in that way of like power coming from full like disgust, because it's a fake. I think he says like it's probably a fake. It's probably a fake hunchback, and I think he had some other deformity that was fake.
So I mean I do think that there's something there. I don't know whether like he would admit that or not, like the author. I feel like maybe not, but I do think that there is something there probably.
It is like a dark psychological thing, but either way, I don't know if Ligotti sees something there. There's definitely stuff to mine there for sure, but to the narrator, that's nothing. That's baby stuff. He thinks that's like actually holding his victim back. That's not the true darkness that she's looking for. And I don't know if darkness is the word he would use, but that's not the true transgression that he's looking for.
Right. God,
and then they go into it, so...
Yeah, go ahead.
So, now I guess I should have said it before, like, the part of what he realizes about her that he knows better than she does is that she has this private conception of herself as some kind of like a woman in a nunnery that was taken away by an evil baron with glitter eyebrows. And now she's back, she's trying to like reclaim bits of her former life. And so like then like this fantasy bleeds into the role play that I guess she thinks she's giving the killer, which is that she's a witch and he's a puppet. And it went right into that of like, you know what a puppet, like a bad puppet does is we throw him into the fire, and he says it was a puppet. The puppet would have smiled, but would have been sweating. At first I thought she was just like throwing a puppet around. I wasn't, or a mannequin.
Oh yeah. No, I figured out pretty quick that he was the puppet.
But there was some like ambiguity in the way it was written.
Mm-hmm.
And to like it being like literally, like he's described as literally a puppet. He says he would be sweating, but he's a puppet, so he's not sweating. It kind of reminds me of like going back to the chemist too, like the body transforming.
Yeah.
Oh, just like the power of the fantasy. But this is seen like more clearly just that. And then it says, but maybe he was sweating because he's glistening in the eyebrows. And then he like takes control of the fantasy and like kind of like plays the role of that eyebrow man who kidnapped her in her dream or in her whatever former life. And she's like, how do you know about that? That's when he goes, to use a phrase again, that's when he goes mask off again, and he like pulls her into his body. Like there, I'm not really sure what it is. Like he pulls her into his body or something.
Yeah, he like eats her
to be like
with his stomach.
Which is like apparently he's done this before. It's like they describe it like a weird like metaphysical way. Then he's gonna really be able to play with her once she's inside him, and eventually she'll like dissolve or something.
Right.
It ends with him walking out, and a drunk sees like her hand come out of his chest,
right, and
then attempt to escape before she goes back in. He says it wasn't a real attempt, which is part of the thing. Like, I don't know. I'm editorializing here. I'm thinking it might have been a real intent.
Right.
But, you know, he's in this thing. Like he does, or, you know, even more sinister, like he's tapping into like whatever darkest, like self-destructive urge, like that people might have.
Yeah, Yeah, there's a lot in this one for me, probably. There's like a whole lot going on with like the dynamics of dominance and submission in general. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, for minute at one, it's implied that she's essentially like playing as like a dom. You know what I mean? Like, it's not her like actual self. She does this for like money or for performance. You know, and she's like waiting patiently to flip the script on her, and this like really like. Again, looking at it again from that sort of like this guy's like sort of rapey perspective, like he just waits until this moment to flip it on her, and he has this sort of supernatural knowledge of whatever her fantasy is. The thing with the Baroness and the glittering eyebrows, I'll admit, I that to me, I wish we could get like a more clear picture of what the deal is with that. So I'm not sure. I was like, is that her past life? Is this a dream she has? Is this just like a fantasy that she thinks about when she falls asleep and touches herself? You know what I mean? Like, I would believe any of the above. You know what I mean? Like, but it was never clear like, what, you know? So, but it's clear that whatever it is, it like cuts like right into her fucking core. You know what I mean? Because it makes her sort of crumple into him, which I you know what I mean? Like, again, like something about this, I think for me is especially horrifying just because like I obviously I am sort of like a gothy submissive, you know what I mean? So it just like felt like this person was like trying to write like a fucking, I felt a little bit singled out, you know what I mean? The way he like plays on her exact like her needs, actually, like what she needs out of like in order to feel like she's submitting emotionally, like the way that he gets her to do that just to like eat her is so fucking insane, dude. I was like, oh my god, like, and that's when I think I was sort of marveling at like how recent of a writer Ligotti was, because it's like, I don't know, like, you know, no other authors that we wrote about could have like really like enunciated like oh yeah, this kinky submissive goth bitch, just you know, that's like not something that Edgar Allan Poe could have put into words, you know what I mean? Like, but that's a stereotype that exists very.
That's true, like the BDSM like subculture.
Right, it's something that exists very much in like our contemporary reality, like the idea of like goth girls and like BDSM, things like that. But it's not something that exists in most, you know, even Stephen King. Like, I don't think he would be like, oh yeah, this goth bitch who likes to be spanked, like, you know, like,
right.
That's a little too new even for him, I think. But
in his cocaine era, he might have included one, or like there might be a goth girl or two, but in a purely like vanilla objectification kind of way.
Right. Yeah.
There's like, I remember like in It and in The Shining, he got weirdly horny sometimes.
Oh yeah, I've heard that the book of The Shining is insane at the end. Like, I think it ends with them all fucking or something. Like, it ends in an orgy, I'm pretty sure.
That's it. At the end of book one, when they're kids, like, they all fuck so that they'll forget the clown or something.
Wait, are you kidding? That's what it is?
Yeah, in part one. It's like there's a kid orgy at the end of part one of It.
What the fuck?
I never got that far, so I'm not sure how he contextualizes it to.
So next week we're reading It, and no, I'm kidding. We'll not be doing that. We will not be doing that.
And we'll skip ahead, and also stop reading.
Right. I watched the It movie. Go ahead.
No orgy. They just held hands, I think.
Oh, okay. Yeah, because I watched the original movie, not the remake, around Halloween. You know, the mini-series or whatever. The really long one. It was good, honestly. I kind of enjoyed it, but... yeah, that's all I have to say about that. No further points.
Yeah, to me, it's just, like, childhood memories. To me, it all worked as... Like, I don't know what it would be like revisiting it.
I remember we went to the theater at one point to see if we could get tickets for it. And we walked in there and we were like, can we get tickets for It? And it quickly became this like terrible who's on first kind of bit where it was like, you want tickets for
Oh, come
and
on.
like, yeah, can we see it? And they were like, yeah, it. And they were like, yeah, can we see it? And they were like, it, yeah, it. And it was just like, all right, so everybody shut the fuck up and stop saying it, please. Like,
See, that wouldn't have happened if it was called the Nyctalops Trilogy.
that's true. Nobody probably would have seen it if it was
That-
called the Nyctalops Trilogy. What is a Nyctalops? Can we look that word up?
Yeah, look it up. I don't get it wrong. I think like seeing in the dark or seeing at night.
A person affected by nyctalopia. Nyctalopia is night blindness. Now, what is night blindness?
Night blindness. So it's not seeing it.
Yeah, so it's at night. Like if the light is low or like not there, your eyes seems like your eyes don't adjust. Is what it is, something like that.
That's interesting. Because you would think these narrators would feel, at least like they would identify as being the very opposite of that.
Oh yeah, like predators or something, like literal crepuscular, like crepuscular.
Yeah.
Crepuscular. Cut that out too.
Oh.
I'm kidding. That's probably fine.
In The Chemist, I don't know if I keep going. I don't know why I go back. I guess like that one is like the most where a character's like laying down like their worldview.
Yeah, that's true.
But he talks about, and so there's the effects of the worldview. But he talks about like seeing like a marquee or something that says like nightly pleasures or like nightly shows or something.
Right.
And how the meaning transforms from being every night to being to like that to nightly describing something like pertaining to the night.
Oh yeah. That's interesting. That does tie
But
into the yeah.
But like, is it like his victims not adjusting? Is to him like the rest of the world Nyctalops?
I guess that must be it. I mean, the people at the party certainly are.
I guess it's not very deep to go into like either or, but the other option is like if the narrators here are the Nyctalopian people, or person, if it's the same person, then it's like maybe like naturally we just like adjust to like dark realities.
Oh yeah.
But like the real fucked up shit is when you see things for how they are.
If they're the Nyctalops, it could be like implied that we are not, in the sense that we can see them for what they are.
That's true. Like we see through like
we can see in low light well enough to identify these characters as villains. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Like these almost are just like artists or chemists or just like singular people. I wanted to ask you. I think we went through this, so I think that's the story of Eye of the Lynx. I want to ask you, do you think there's anything to the title? Like the other ones? Like The Chemist, like very straight, there's a chemist man.
Right.
Uh-huh. Labyrinthine eyes. I think he describes eyes as labyrinthine at some point.
He does it twice, but only once directly. The second one is direct, and he's talking about her sunken eyes, but the first time he's talking about his own eyes, and he just doesn't say labyrinthine, you know what I mean? He just says, I have crazy looking eyes. But the way that they're gemstones like that is clearly like, like maze-like, but entrancing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But what was the other? Oh, the name of it was called like Lynx Eyes, right? This new one, the third one.
Yeah, Eye of the Lynx.
Yeah, I didn't know how to parse that, really, to be honest. I mean, it seems like it would have been an apt name for the previous one as well. Like, it just seems interchangeable.
Yeah, the only thing I can, I'm concerned that this is too literal. Because I half suspect he just needed a title. He just needed a title.
Oh yeah. Right.
Maybe just like Lynx as like a predator.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. It's got the predatory implication.
Part of his thing is his ability to perceive so well. He knows what's behind each of the doors, and he knows like what's in her head. And maybe it's like maybe it's like the voyeuristic aspect of what he's doing.
Uh-huh. Right. Well, that certainly like ties into the Nyctalopia sort of.
Oh yeah,
They're not in the way that
that's true.
we were last insinuating. It definitely implies that he is not Nyctaloptic, but his victims would appear to be.
Like there's one big through line in like the way we see the world. Like the chemist like insists on this romantic interpretation of the world, seeing it in terms of like these dark systems, and right, like the hypnotist, like he, like, that one's like clear, like he's making people see things in one way. He wants them to see and appreciate the angelic corpse, like the angelic part of the corpse show.
Right.
And I have the links. Is like that one is like so dark and like so invasive.
Oh yeah, spookiest one for sure.
But that one's like he's not like he's not making someone else see something. He's like bringing out the darkness in other people, like noticing the darkness in other people. Like
yeah, that's true.
I guess like there's something with the chains, maybe how they fall off. Maybe she didn't want to remember the eyebrow man.
Yeah, glittering eyebrows is such a weird. Would be the descriptor I'd go with.
For sure, that's like at least that's unique.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, I don't even know what that could mean. You know what I mean? Like, it's hard for me to. I guess other than like as you said earlier, like sweat on his brow. Like that's the only thing I could think of. But
I think doesn't the story say like the Baroness like puts glitter on his eyebrows? Isn't there like imagery of literal glitter on
shit,
eyebrows?
I have to read it again. It could have said that. I got so lost when they started talking about Baronesses and eyebrows that I had to like read it 3 times. I was like, wait, what? Like,
yeah, that one was like structurally like all over the place, like a little messy.
Yeah, I'll admit, I felt a little bit that way about the first one too. Like when he first says, like, "Oh, see, you've snorted a drug, and now I'm dreaming you." I was like, "I'm what?" I thought I was dreaming because I was like half awake when I read it. I was like, "Oh, I've clearly fallen asleep, and what I'm reading now in this story is not the real story. This is just nonsense." But, which is kind of funny, kind of an authentic way to read it. But
right, in this like in and out thing.
yeah.
Those two are definitely more ambiguous and weird about reality and perception.
Yeah,
the second one is very explained.
Crowley in that. Like, I think Crowley is a lot of. We should read The Drug because it's really short. Maybe we should just tack it on to whatever we read for next week. We should actually read The Drug because it's only like a page or 2.
Oh, okay.
And just tack that on. But
okay, yeah, we'll put that on. That's something to anticipate. A little bit of the drug talk, and then
yeah.
Oof. Okay, now we gotta sign out.
Yeah, we do. All right, so that was our first attempt. Yeah, like and subscribe.
I think.
Sorry, that's all.
Battles of the mind that throttle.